Video opens on a hyper-detailed, black and white ink illustration. A lone figure stands on a cliff, looking out at a colossal, twisted castle in the distance. The sky is filled with ominous, swirling clouds resembling faces in agony. The wind howls softly. Voiceover: there is a shadow that walks beside every great ambition. You have felt it. It's the cold whisper on the edge of a breakthrough, the chilling logic that follows a moment of doubt. It's the part of you that calculates, that measures, that is willing to cut away anything, or anyone, that slows you down. We will call this the sovereign's shadow. The darkness cast by a dream that has been placed on a throne, demanding absolute rule over your life. Today, we will not banish this shadow. We will confront it. We will journey into the heart of one of fiction's most terrifying cautionary tales to understand the anatomy of this monster within. And I promise you, by the end of our time here, you will not only understand how ambition becomes a monster, you will have learned how to chain it. The image slowly zooms in on the distant, dark castle. The screen fades to black. You have a dream. It is not a small thing, a fleeting wish. It is a kingdom you see in your mind's eye. A masterpiece you can feel in your bones. A summit you are compelled to climb. It is the central, organizing principle of your existence. And you tell yourself, rightly, that such a dream demands sacrifice. But have you ever stopped, in the dead of night, to feel the nature of that sacrifice? It begins with your time. Then your comfort. Then your sleep. These are easy offerings to lay on the altar of your ambition. But the shadow demands more. Soon, you begin to feel a strange detachment. A conversation with a loved one feels inefficient. Their problems, their joys, seem trivial compared to the grand architecture of your goal. You find yourself nodding, smiling, while the gears in your mind are still turning, optimizing, planning your next move. You are a ghost at their table. You start to see people not as people, but as resources. This person is a useful connection. This one is a stepping stone. This friend offers emotional support, a necessary refueling station. This one is an obstacle. A distraction. A weight. And the sovereign's shadow whispers a simple, terrible question. What would you be, without them? Think of the entrepreneur, so consumed by the vision of their company that they see their family as a drain on their focus. They miss the birthdays, the anniversaries, the small moments that weave the tapestry of a life, all for a future success that may never come. They are building an empire for a family they no longer know. Think of the artist, convinced that their suffering is the sacred fuel for their creation. They isolate themselves, push away love, cultivate their own misery, believing it makes their work more authentic. They bleed onto the canvas, but forget how to live when the brush is down. This is the hidden cost. The true, insidious tax of an unchecked ambition. It's not just the relationships you lose. It is the hollowing out of your own humanity. The dream, which was born inside you, begins to devour its host. You are building a magnificent throne, but the person who is meant to sit upon it is being ground into dust to make the mortar. You are not just sacrificing your present for your future. You are sacrificing yourself for an idea of yourself. And that is a bargain that will leave you a king of ashes. To understand this process, this monstrous transformation, we must turn our gaze to a story etched in ink and anguish. We must look to Kentaro Miura's Berserk, and to the man who is the perfect embodiment of the sovereign's shadow. Griffith, the White Hawk. Do not mistake him for a simple villain. Griffith is a mirror. He shows us the endpoint of a logic that many of us, in our most ambitious moments, have entertained. The core of Griffith's philosophy, the engine of his rise and his fall, is the concept of the dream as a causal imperative. This is not just a goal. A causal imperative is a dream so absolute that it fundamentally rewrites the laws of reality for the dreamer. It is a gravity well that pulls everything, morality, friendship, loyalty, love, into its orbit and assigns them value based only on their utility to the dream. The dream is no longer a part of the dreamer's life. The dreamer becomes a mere instrument, a biological function, for the dream's realization. Let us dissect this pathology. It is built on three pillars of self-deception. First, is the devaluation of the present. Griffith's dream is of a kingdom. A perfect, shining thing, always on the horizon. Because this future kingdom is the only thing with true value, the entire present world becomes a dull, gray, profane stepping stone. The laughter of his soldiers around a campfire, the loyalty of his commanders, the love of his comrades, these are not moments to be cherished for what they are. They are merely fuel. They are currency to be spent to purchase a piece of the future. He is physically present in the moment, but his soul is already in his castle. For the man ruled by a causal imperative, the here and now is a prison he must escape. Second, the instrumentalization of others. In Griffith's worldview, there are no friends. Not truly. There are only followers. People are not ends in themselves, possessing their own sacred, sovereign dreams. They are tools. In his famous speech to Princess Charlotte, he lays this bare. To him, a true friend must be his equal, someone with a dream so powerful it can stand independent of his own. But notice the paradox. Anyone with such a dream would not be a follower. They would be a rival. Thus, his definition of friendship inherently precludes the very people who have dedicated their lives to him. Guts, Casca, Judo, Pippin, they believe they are part of a shared journey. They see the Band of the Hawk as a family. Griffith sees an exceptionally effective collection of swords, spears, and shields. He may care for them, as a master craftsman cares for his finest tools. He may lament their breaking, but he will never hesitate to sacrifice a tool to complete the masterpiece. And third, the justification of atrocity. This is the final, logical step. If your dream is a causal imperative, a thing of absolute, almost divine, importance, then any action taken to serve it is not only permissible, it is necessary. Morality becomes a luxury. Compassion becomes a weakness. The screams of the sacrificed are just the groaning of the gears of causality, turning in your favor. The question is no longer, is this right? The question becomes, does this serve the dream? This is the logic that allows him to assassinate rivals, to sell his body, and ultimately, to orchestrate the eclipse. A healthy mind uses that star to navigate. It is a fixed point in the heavens that guides your ship through the treacherous, dark waters of life. You use it to stay the course. The sovereign's shadow is what happens when you decide the goal is not to navigate by the star, but to possess it. You begin to see the ship not as your home, but as a slow, heavy constraint. You see your crew not as your companions, but as mouths to feed, consuming precious resources. So you burn the sails for a little more speed. You burn the decks. You jettison the crew to lighten the load. You aim your burning vessel straight out of the water, into the cold, airless void, convinced that the fire of your destination will be worth the absolute annihilation of the journey. You mistake a point of light for a world. You mistake a guide for a god. And in your worship, you sacrifice everything that makes the arrival worth having. So, we have gazed into the abyss. Now, how do we keep from falling in? Griffith's tragedy can serve as our map. We can reverse engineer his damnation to forge our salvation. This requires more than just hope. It requires discipline. It requires practice. Here are 4 techniques to master your ambition, to keep the sovereign's shadow chained in your dungeon, where it belongs. Number 1. Conduct the corpse audit. The path to any great achievement is littered with sacrifice. The shadow's greatest trick is to make you forget this, to normalize the cost. You will not allow this. Take out a piece of paper, a journal, and look back. Look back at the road you have walked in service of your dream. Now, be a ruthless accountant of your own soul. What have you truly sacrificed? Don't just write time or money. Be specific. Skipped my brother's wedding reception to prepare for a presentation. Ignored a friend's call for help because I was in the zone. Lied to my partner about how much I was working. What values have you bent? What parts of your own conscience have you numbed? Which relationships are withering from neglect? List them. All of them. These are the corpses you are piling up to build your throne. This is not an exercise in self-flagellation. Guilt is a useless indulgence. This is about awareness. You must know the price you are paying. Stare at it. Acknowledge it. Only then can you ask the most important question. Is the throne worth this pile of bodies? Number 2. Define your non-negotiables. Griffith's soul was destroyed because, in the end, nothing was non-negotiable except his dream. Your task is to do the opposite. You must build bulkheads in the hull of your ship, compartments of your soul that you will never, ever flood, no matter how dire the storm. You must decide, right now, in a moment of clarity, what your sacred laws are. The lines you will not cross. The people you will not sacrifice. Write them down. Make it a covenant with yourself. Perhaps it is: I will never betray the trust of someone who depends on me for a career opportunity. Or, I will not sacrifice my physical health for a deadline. A broken body cannot rule a kingdom. Or, I will always make time for my child's bedtime story, for this moment is fleeting and the work is eternal. These are your anchors. Ambition is a hurricane. Without anchors, you will be dashed against the rocks. When a difficult choice arises, you will not have to rely on your tired, compromised, in-the-moment judgment. You will consult your laws. The decision will have already been made. Number 3. Practice purposeful inefficiency. The sovereign's shadow is a tyrant of efficiency. Every hour must be optimized. Every conversation must have a purpose. Every action must serve the goal. This turns a human life into a machine. You must rebel against this. You must intentionally, deliberately, schedule inefficiency into your life. This is an act of defiance. It is a declaration that your life is not merely a means to an end. Go for a long walk with no destination. Have dinner with an old friend and forbid any discussion of your respective goals. Read a novel that has absolutely nothing to do with your field. Sit in a park and simply watch the world go by for an hour. These activities are poison to the causal imperative. They produce nothing. They optimize nothing. They advance nothing. And that is why they are so essential. They are acts of pure, unadulterated being. They tether you to the present moment. They remind you that the small, simple, inefficient textures of life are not distractions from the path. They are the path. Number 4. Forge a shared dream. Griffith's dream was his and his alone. He stood at the top of a pyramid, and everyone else was a stone in its foundation. This is the loneliest, most perilous structure for a dream. You must transform your pyramid into a circle. Look at your ambition. Now, ask how it can be woven into the ambitions of others. How does your success elevate those you care about? This requires humility. It requires you to ask, and to listen. Ask your partner, your friends, your team, what is your dream? How can my journey help you on yours? A dream that serves only the self becomes a prison, its walls growing higher and thicker until you are sealed inside with your magnificent obsession. But a dream that serves, includes, and elevates a community becomes a fortress. Its walls protect everyone within it. Its victory is a shared feast, not a lonely coronation. When you bind your dream to the well-being of others, you create a powerful immune system against the sovereign's shadow, because any action that harms them, harms the dream itself. Do these principles work? Does this philosophy hold? For proof, we need only look at the final outcome of Griffith's journey. He succeeds. This is the most chilling and instructive part of the entire saga. His methods, his ruthless philosophy, they work. He activates the Bailet. He offers up every soldier who bled for him, who trusted him, who loved him, as a sacrifice to the demonic god hand. He orchestrates the eclipse, a scene of such unimaginable horror that it stands as one of the great monuments of dark fiction. And from that blood and betrayal, he is reborn. He becomes Femto, a demon king. He gets his kingdom. Falconia rises, a perfect, white city, a sanctuary for humanity in a world ravaged by monsters of his own creation. He sits on his throne. He has the power, the glory, the kingdom he dreamed of. But Griffith, the man, is gone. He is a hollow shell. A beautiful monument to a dead dream. He can no longer feel the warmth of the sun, the camaraderie of a shared struggle, or the love of another human being. He sacrificed his humanity so utterly and completely that he became an abstraction, a walking symbol of his own ambition. He won the game, but in doing so, he became one of the board pieces. The proof of our philosophy lies in the profound horror of his victory. He shows us that the ultimate cost of a causal imperative is not failure, but a success that hollows you out so completely that you are no longer there to enjoy it. The great 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster." And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will also gaze into you. Griffith did not just fight monsters. He courted them. He studied them, and he ultimately decided that the most efficient way to win was to become their king. He gazed into the abyss of his own ambition, and the abyss gazed back, and it found a willing vessel. Our logic, then, is the logic of survival. Unchecked ambition is a subtractive force. It removes everything that is not essential to the goal: compassion, empathy, morality, rest, love, until all that is left is the raw, burning engine of the will. Our principles are an additive force. They are a conscious effort to add back, to protect, to cultivate the very human elements that ambition seeks to discard. They ensure that when you finally reach your castle, there is still a human being left to walk through its gates. The screen fades to black. Final image. A close-up on the protagonist's eyes, Guts' eyes, burning with rage and sorrow, but also an unbreakable will. The reflection of a bonfire dances in them. A question, then, for you, the struggler. Griffith stated that for someone to be his true friend, they must have their own dream, a purpose that is completely independent of his. Do you agree with this? Or can a truly shared dream, a purpose pursued in unison, forge an even stronger, more meaningful bond? What is your philosophy? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The sanctuary is a place for counsel. If you are a fellow traveler on this difficult path, navigating the chasm between the abyss of despair and the blinding star of ambition, then you have found your company. Subscribe to Struggler's Sanctuary. Join us, and let us walk this road together. And now, you have understood the nature of the man who casts the shadow. To truly comprehend the struggle, you must understand the man who is forced to live within it. The man who bears the brand of sacrifice. Your session is not over. Watch our deep dive into the philosophy of his nemesis, his friend, his victim, the psychology of the branded swordsman, finding purpose in endless pain. It is the other half of this story. Click the link on the screen. The fire is lit. We are waiting.